So then he comes back to the Wolka Valley region, which is his favorite retreat place, once more. And it was during that third retreat, which was nearly a year, one of the high points of that meditation period there was this grand vision. So this vision is a very grand one, and it's captured in the biographical hymns to Tsongkhapa. And in this, basically, what he experienced was, and sometimes this is depicted in Tsongkhapa's life tankas. There's a Manjushri in a rainbow kind of halo, and from Manjushri's heart is a sword made of light, extending from his heart, and then the tip reaches Tsongkhapa's heart, and on that sword, nectars flow, and light and nectars flow from Manjushri to Tsongkhapa, and this was apparently quite a powerful experience that some of the immediate disciples, attendants around Tsongkhapa also felt that something was happening. So this was. And an important part of that was, I think this was a turning point in Tsongkhapa's Vajrayana experience, particularly the experience of great bliss. And one of the central aims in the Vajrayana practice is cultivating subtle states of consciousness whose tone is bliss, and then applying it to meditation on emptiness. And this is referred to as the union of bliss and emptiness. And the idea here is that in a non-Vajrayana practice, the mind that is used, the subject that is used for understanding the truth, is really at the level of thought. It's a more grosser level of consciousness, and the grosser levels of consciousness are very heavily defined by dualistic approach, dualistic perspective. So what needs to happen is and this is one area where Vajrayana uses many of the yogic techniques. And underlying this is the understanding that the thought or mind, the movement of mind is very closely connected with the movement of energy in the body. And by kind of using yogic techniques to really kind of, slow down the energy movement in the body, and getting to the point where it comes to a very subtle level, will allow the mind to naturally reach to a subtle level. And the progressively subtle levels of consciousness become more and more independent from the typical things that tend to overlay the human mind: concepts, thoughts, visual images, and many of these. So, and the aim in Vajrayana is to really cultivate one's practice to a point where one is able to invoke these subtle levels of consciousness and then fuse it with the understanding of emptiness. And then when that happens at a very deep level, then one experiences great bliss. So this particular experience Tsongkhapa has with the Manjushri sword really has this powerful connotation with a surge of bliss in his experience. Now, the one important point is that despite all of this, and this is where Tsongkhapa is very remarkable, even though he acknowledges these experiences, in his writing, he never uses his experience of visions of Manjushri as an authority to prove a point. That, I think, is a very important point to remember, because there is also, underlying this is also an understanding that when it comes to the actual truth, the fundamental nature of reality, it is universal. We cannot say, I have my version of truth and you have your version of truth. But when it comes to the actual mystical experiences, like vision of Manjushri, vision of Tara or Avalokiteshvara, there is a lot of individuation. I think there is a lot of specificity. And that probably is partly due to the differences that make us individuals. So the Tibetans would, account it in terms of our karmic propensities, our body constitutions, particularly the vayu, the winds and the energy constitutions, and also kind of, past relationship history with the certain practices. So how the visions are experienced seems to have a lot of specificity and diversity. And therefore, citing his vision as a way of demonstrating an authority on a particular doctrinal or philosophical point, even if it is to do with Vajrayana practice, is something that Tsongkhapa really avoids. So that's what makes Tsongkhapa's writing pretty impressive, because he's basically presenting his writings in a way where the text, what he has written, will stand by themselves without invoking this extra human authority that he is so famous to have experienced.